I don't care who you think you are. You will sit down, or I will have you removed in handcuffs." The words cracked across Courtroom 4B like a whip. Most people would have dropped into their seat instantly. The woman in the third row did not. She kept writing. Her pen moved steadily across the page of her notepad, as if the man shouting from the bench were commenting on the weather instead of threatening arrest. No tremor, no hesitation. Judge Vernon Holbrook had ruled from that bench for 28 years. He had reduced seasoned attorneys to stuttering apologies with a single raised eyebrow. He had watched defendants crumble under his silence. He had never encountered someone who simply continued writing. "Bailiff!" Holbrook barked, his face flushed a deep, irritated red. "Remove her." The courtroom air tightened. Chester Dunaway, the judge's longtime bailiff, stepped forward with deliberate weight. He was built for intimidation. Broad shoulders, shaved head, slow walk meant to signal control. "Ma'am," he said, stopping at the aisle, "you need to leave." The woman closed her notepad carefully. She slid her pen into its spine. She stood without protest. "I'll leave voluntarily," she said clearly enough for the courtroom microphone to capture every syllable. "But I'd like it noted for the record that I was ordered removed for observing public proceedings." Holbrook's jaw tightened. "There is no record of observers," he snapped. Her expression did not change. "There's always a record." The door swung shut behind her. Inside the courtroom, Holbrook adjusted his robe, forcing composure back into his posture. The gallery shifted uneasily. Proceedings resumed, but the woman walking down the hallway already knew something he didn't. That tantrum had just become Exhibit 47. 3 days earlier, Naomi Garrett had checked into a modest hotel 6 blocks from the courthouse. She used her real name. She wasn't undercover. Not exactly. Officially, she was a private citizen exercising her right to observe public court. Unofficially, she was the executive director of the Florida Judicial Qualifications Commission, and she had spent 22 months collecting complaints about Vernon Holbrook. 46 formal allegations. Attorneys humiliated mid-argument. Defendants sentenced without explanation. Patterns too consistent to ignore, yet never strong enough to survive internal review. Every time she submitted preliminary findings, Commissioner Margot Leland dismissed them. Insufficient evidence, judicial discretion, isolated incidents. The phrasing changed. The outcome never did. Holbrook remained on the bench, so Naomi had decided to stop reading transcripts and start watching. Her hotel room safe now held color-coded folders. Red, internal conflicts. Blue, transcripts. Yellow, complaints. Green, authenticated evidence. The green file was thick, and getting thicker. What she needed wasn't rumor. She needed pattern in real time. She needed him on record. Back in the courthouse hallway, Dunaway stopped walking. "You're done here," he muttered. Naomi adjusted her bag on her shoulder. "For today," she said. He leaned closer. "You don't know who you're messing with." She met his eyes calmly. "Yes," she said, "I do." Then she walked toward the exit, every step measured. Behind her, inside Courtroom 4B, Judge Vernon Holbrook believed he had just removed a nuisance. What he had actually done was create evidence. The next morning, Naomi arrived at 8:15 a.m. Same gray dress, same neutral expression, same notepad. The deputy at security studied her ID longer than necessary. "Back again?" he asked. "Yes," she replied calmly. "Observing public proceedings." He didn't like that answer, but it was legal. Courtroom 4B was already half full when she entered. Word had spread. A few attorneys glanced back at her. The clerk, Ranetta Voss, pretended not to. Judge Holbrook walked in at 8:32 sharp. State versus Marcus Treadwell. A 17-year-old black teenager stood at the defense table. His suit jacket was too large, sleeves swallowing his hands. His public defender began to speak. "Your Honor, we've only had..." "24 hours is sufficient," Holbrook cut in. Naomi wrote the timestamp. The public defender tried again. "Your Honor, my client is a juvenile and..." "In this state," Holbrook said coldly, 17 is an adult for criminal purposes." The boy swallowed. "Do you understand the charges?" the judge asked. "Yes, sir." And do you understand you face up to a year in jail? Yes, sir. How do you plead? The public defender tried to object again. Overruled. Not guilty, Marcus said quietly. Holbrook leaned back. Trial set for January 15th. Defendant remanded to custody, pending trial. The room went still. Your Honor, the public defender protested. This is a misdemeanor. There hasn't even been. Next case. The gavel fell. Marcus Treadwell was led away in handcuffs. Naomi underlined 3 words in her notes. No bail hearing. Case after case followed the same rhythm. Interrupt. Dismiss. Override. When a black woman explained she'd miss a traffic fine because she lost her job, Holbrook asked loudly, "Have you considered working harder?" A few people in the gallery laughed. Naomi did not. She documented everything. Timestamp. Case number. Exact quote. By noon, she had logged 7 incidents. 7. And that was just the morning. Lunch in the courthouse cafeteria felt deliberate. An administrative staff member approached her table. "You're not a law student," the woman observed. "No." "Family of defendant?" "No." "Then why are you here?" "Because the courtroom is public." The smile vanished. "It's unusual to sit all day." Naomi met her gaze. "I'm not most people." The message was clear. You don't belong. But Naomi had spent 22 months being told she didn't belong in rooms like this. She had stopped caring. The afternoon brought a protective order hearing. Delisa Wainwright, trembling hands, quiet voice, petitioning for protection from her ex-husband. Holbrook scanned the paperwork. "This reads like creative writing," he said flatly. "Do you have proof?" "I have text messages." "Fabricated." "I have voicemails." "Taken out of context." Her attorney attempted to cite Florida statute. "I wrote the procedures for this court," Holbrook snapped. "Do not educate me." Petition denied. Without hearing the witness waiting in the hallway, without reviewing evidence, without hesitation, Delisa walked out shaking. Her ex-husband smiled as he passed her. Naomi wrote, "Due process denied. Witness barred. Pattern confirmed." By the end of day 2, she had documented 14 new incidents. 14. She returned to her hotel room and uploaded every page to secure cloud storage. Then she updated her master file. 48. She stared at the number on her screen. 48 documented patterns of bias, intimidation, or procedural violation. But patterns weren't enough. Not yet. She needed something undeniable. Something they couldn't dismiss as interpretation. Something clean. Something explosive. The next morning, she would get it. Day 3 did not begin normally. Naomi arrived at 8:15 a.m. Same time, same routine. But Bailiff Chester Dunaway was already waiting outside Courtroom 4B. Arms crossed. Face unreadable. "You can't enter today," he said. "On what grounds?" Naomi asked evenly. "Judge's discretion." "I'll need to see the written order." "There isn't one." Then the courtroom remains public. For a moment, it looked like he might physically block her. Then his radio crackled. "Let her in," came Voss's voice. "The judge wants her to watch." "Wants her to watch." Naomi stepped inside. The morning felt staged. Holbrook was unusually measured. He let attorneys finish their sentences. He nodded thoughtfully. He even smiled once. Performance mode. He knew he was being observed. She documented that too. Controlled behavior under scrutiny. Even that was evidence. Then, at 11:45 a.m., everything changed. State versus Marcus Treadwell. Naomi's pen paused. The 17-year-old from day 1. The one remanded to custody without bail. But something was wrong. Marcus stood alone. No public defender beside him. No attorney in the courtroom. "Mr. Treadwell," Holbrook said coolly, "it appears your counsel is not present." "I didn't know I had a hearing today," Marcus said. "Nobody told me. It was on the docket. I've been in detention." "That is not this court's concern." Naomi felt something shift in the room. The prosecutor looked uneasy. "Do you wish to proceed without counsel?" Holbrook continued. "Or waive your speedy trial rights and request a continuance?" "I don't understand." "It's a simple question. Trial now or wait in custody?" I want a lawyer. You were assigned one. If she's not here, that is not my problem. The prosecutor cleared his throat. Your Honor, I'm not certain the defendant has knowingly waived his right to counsel. Proceed, Holbrook snapped, or join him in contempt. Silence. The prosecutor complied. Naomi's pen moved rapidly. No valid waiver obtained. Sixth Amendment violation in progress. Case 2024 CF 9102. Timestamp 11:52 a.m. She felt it then. The line. This wasn't impatience. This wasn't bias. This was constitutional collapse. The trial lasted 40 minutes. Marcus didn't know how to object. He didn't know how to cross-examine. He didn't know he could challenge testimony. He tried to explain he had cut through property as a shortcut. Holbrook interrupted him 3 times. The arresting officer testified. The property owner testified. Guilty. 90 days in juvenile detention. The gavel fell. Marcus didn't cry. He just stood there, stunned, as if he had just learned something permanent about the world. Naomi closed her notebook. Her hands were shaking now, not from fear, from certainty. She stepped into a hallway alcove and called Dale Odom. I need confirmation, she said. Case 2024 CF 9102 was a public defender signed. 10 minutes later, her phone rang. There's no record of assignment, Dale said. That's impossible. It's not in the system. No counsel. No waiver. Nothing. Naomi felt her pulse in her throat. Someone deleted it, she said, or never entered it. Either way, the system wasn't just failing. It was being manipulated. The afternoon brought something worse. In the hallway, Dunaway approached her. Security check, he said. There's no security check for observers. You've been flagged. For what? Suspicious activity. Show me the policy. It's in my head. He stepped closer. Too close. You think rights matter in here? He said quietly. They matter everywhere, she replied. He smiled. People who make trouble for Judge Holbrook have accidents. Her phone was already recording in her pocket. Is that a threat? She asked. It's advice. He walked away. Naomi stood still until her pulse slowed. Then she walked calmly to the elevator. In the parking garage, she heard footsteps again. Hey! Dunaway. No uniform this time. Civilian clothes. Holding a leather notebook. You left this. That's not mine. He stepped closer. People who mess with the judge, he murmured, have bad luck. Cars get broken into. People trip downstairs. Her phone captured every word. When he finally walked away, she sat in her car for a full minute before starting the engine. 48 documented incidents. And now this. 49. That night in her hotel room. She called Dale. I'm filing, she said. You're sure? I've never been more sure. She opened the folder marked formal complaint. Then she added one more entry. Incident 49. Direct threat from bailiff. Recorded. Time-stamped. Preserved. She closed the folder. Tomorrow, this would escalate. By the morning of day 4, Naomi was no longer invisible. She knew at the moment she stepped off the elevator. There were more people gathered outside Courtroom 4B than usual. Attorneys linger without reason. Clerks whispering too loudly. A pair of local reporters pretending to check their phones while watching her approach. Conversations stopped when she passed. Inside, Ranada Voss didn't even pretend to ignore her this time. She's the one. Naomi heard someone whisper. The spy. The troublemaker. The rumor had spread. Naomi took her seat in the back row. Holbrook entered 2 minutes late. He did not look at her, but his jaw was tight. The morning session unfolded smoothly, almost suspiciously so. He allowed objections. He granted minor motions. He corrected himself once. It was theater. He wanted witnesses to his composure. Naomi documented it anyway. Good behavior under scrutiny. Data point. Then, just before noon, a court reporter approached her in the hallway during recess. Ms. Garrett? The young woman asked quietly. Naomi didn't react to the name. I don't believe we've met. The reporter swallowed. Everyone knows who you are now. That confirmed it. You need to be careful, the woman continued. Voss is telling people you're here to destroy him. I'm observing. That's not how they see it. The reporter hesitated, then pushed a thin manila folder into Naomi's hands. Inside was a USB drive. There's a backup recording system, she whispered. When the judge tells us to stop recording, the secondary system keeps running. Naomi felt her pulse spike. He's been doing it for years, the reporter continued, turning off official audio when he's about to say something he doesn't want on record. How long have you had this? 6 months. I didn't know what to do with it. Naomi closed the folder carefully. You're taking a risk. I know. Why now? The reporter glanced toward the courtroom doors. What he did to that kid yesterday, that wasn't the first time, but it might be the last if someone finally stops him. Naomi nodded once. Thank you. When the reporter walked away, Naomi felt the investigation shift beneath her feet. This wasn't just pattern anymore. This was concealment, intentional concealment. The afternoon session confirmed it. A case appeared on the docket that hadn't been posted that morning. State versus Jamila Cross. A young black woman stood alone at the defense table. My hearing was next week, she said, confused. It's today, Holbrook replied. Her public defender wasn't present. I didn't know, Jamila whispered. You may proceed without counsel, Holbrook said flatly, or request a continuance and remain in custody until rescheduled. The choice was a trap. Proceed unprepared, or go to jail. A young public defender burst in moments later, breathless. I was not notified of the schedule change, he said. Denied, Holbrook replied. We proceed. Naomi wrote, docket manipulated, defense not notified, attempt to proceed without counsel, Sixth Amendment at risk. Again, the pattern was no longer subtle. It was operational. After court adjourned, Naomi approached the clerk's window. I'd like the updated docket logs, she said. Formal request, Voss replied. Processing fee. How much? Administrative. Based on what statute? Voss's eyes hardened. We make updates throughout the day. I have a photograph of the morning posting. Silence. For a moment, something flickered behind Voss's composure. Fear. She disappeared into back office. When she returned, she handed Naomi a printout. The altered case appeared as if it had always been there. Clean. Seamless. Manufactured. Naomi smiled faintly. Thank you. As she walked away, she heard the phone behind the counter dial out immediately. The system had noticed her, and now it was nervous. That evening, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Someone's been asking about you. Security ran your name. They're digging. Naomi saved the message, added it to the evidence folder. Then she plugged the USB drive into her laptop. 6 months of backup audio. If the judge had ever ordered recordings stopped, this would prove it. She stared at the waveform files loading onto her screen. 49 incidents. And now something far more dangerous. Proof of concealment. Proof of corruption. Tomorrow, she would decide whether to pull the trigger. Naomi didn't sleep that night. The USB drive sat on the desk in her hotel room, plugged into her laptop, like a fuse waiting to be lit. She opened the first audio file. Static, shuffling papers. Holbrook's voice. Then another voice, the court reporter's, soft and procedural. Then Holbrook again. Turn that off. A pause. The official recording clicked silent, but the backup system kept running. Naomi heard it clearly. Holbrook exhaled sharply. I'm not putting that on the record. If I let every sob story in here get sympathy, this place would turn into a circus. Another file. Different day. Different case. Make sure that doesn't get logged, Holbrook muttered. We're not feeding the appellate court's ammunition. Naomi leaned back slowly. This wasn't bias. This wasn't impatience. This was awareness. He knew what he was doing, and he knew it was wrong. She exported every file, backed them up twice, encrypted them. Then she opened the red folder. Margot Leland. Marriage record from 1987. Maiden name, Holbrook. First cousin. 3 dismissed complaints, all involving Vernon Holbrook. Naomi stared at the screen. This was no longer a bad judge protected by coincidence. This was a closed circuit. Judge, Bailiff, clerk, commissioner, system protecting itself. Her phone buzzed. "Dale, you need to move now," he said. "I just got word the courthouse IT department is conducting routine server maintenance tomorrow. They're wiping logs." "That's my guess." Naomi stood up immediately. "File the emergency preservation request," she said. "Florida Statute 119.07, imminent destruction of public records. That's going nuclear." "I know." A pause. "Are you ready for what happens next?" Dale asked. Naomi thought about Marcus Treadwell. 90 days in detention. No lawyer. No chance. She thought about Delisa Wainwright. Protective order denied. No witness heard. She thought about the threats in the parking garage. People who mess with the judge have accidents. She looked at the folder labeled formal complaint. "I'm ready." The next morning, Courtroom 4B was packed. Reporters in gallery. Attorneys whispering. Even Holbrook looked unsettled. Naomi didn't take the back row this time. She sat in the third, exactly where she had stood days earlier. Holbrook noticed immediately. His jaw tightened. State versus. "Your Honor." Naomi stood. The room froze. "You will sit down." Holbrook snapped instinctively. Naomi did not. "My name is Naomi Garrett," she said calmly, clearly. "Executive Director of the Florida Judicial Qualifications Commission." The words moved through the courtroom like electricity. Holbrook's face drained of color. "I am formally notifying this court that an emergency preservation order has been filed regarding all audio recordings, docket logs, and internal communications related to this courtroom." Silence. Even Dunaway looked unsure. Naomi continued. "Additionally, a formal complaint supported by 50 documented incidents, including recorded threats and concealed proceedings, has been submitted to the commission." Holbrook's hand trembled. "You will sit down," he repeated, but the authority was gone. "No," she said quietly. "There is always a record." The reporters were already typing. Phones were out. The bailiff didn't move. He didn't dare. Holbrook looked toward the clerk's desk. Voss stared straight ahead. Alone. For the first time in 28 years, Vernon Holbrook had no control over the room. Naomi gathered her folder. "This court is adjourned," Holbrook tried to say, but his voice cracked. And this time, no one obeyed.